Hello, I'm not a journalist. This is real news. For example, real news with real journalists that have license that is recorded criminally foreign influence. That in other words, in conjunction with their sources and roles of private with that, especially with psychology doctors with badges, recorded they're incapable of defending their convictions. Like, excuse me. When they ask if any crime laws or any things have been followed, they're leaving out sequence shifts and federal crimes worse than perjury, just leaving stacking databases and lying and affecting evidence treatments, carrying forward illusions from lie progressions propagated with CCSU since before everyone's births, regardless of the names of these colleges changing or what, because this was from off campus. That's the conversation we're having here about the nature of organized crime that was forced on our founding fathers. I'm not a lawyer. This is recorded correlation shows how lawyers were our types of law. And they're lying overall because they're referring to their types of law. All of them not supposed to be involved with sequence shifts, but directed to be by directors maintain criminally foreign influence through what maintains states and areas criminally foreign influence. We have interbranch families with on off campuses CCSU policing of locations, of stores, and of training of police that was criminally involved. Juxtaposed with Russians, Italians, and many nations criminally involved, facilitated to it, though, through what was keeping states and areas criminally foreign influence here or there. Criminal justice rackets, database illusion stacks, identity thefts. So when WFSB and Fox CT, for example, other Connecticut media distinctly and non-distinctly, all various natures of different federal crimes and of motives to them. Criminal uses recorded, confessed, and demonstrated of Wethersfield parks and of the media playing together and on notions of positive. As a theorized, criminal in city's just nature, pretended legalized, but it's not because it's associated with already standing sick precedents, recorded with, because recorded and tied to when I first moved from New Britain. I lived in two different locations in New Britain. I lived in an apartment in Rocky Hill. I lived where I am now with my parents. We were going to build a thing, but that's why the police too have been spreading rumors about me, telling me to get out of the house because they're recorded with interbranch crimes against each age of fact sheet nature, offensive evidence reception crimes, and how motivated to it, kept it to it, all victim predators. So CCSU, they had a guy also. So when I was coming home, so this is. They made confessions too. There's a whole bunch of families that I had nothing to do with. They need to pretend and sustain conflicts between people. These are the same people involved. Many names with CCSU from my town that I've never had. How do I know this? Because it's recorded. Because they won't fix the fake news. The end of there was a report that CNN did on Paul Manafort Drive, after I had been starting to report on it. They acted to obfuscate it with federal criminals involved. These are people with CCSU, criminally involved interstate, with foreign and domestic, with Trade Center attack proven sequence shift, post-dated documents that had been time-stamped on time, then shown to the court inside the Trade Center attack context with a panel of judges have been post-dated from inside court, and so was made to look late. So that was filed late. That proven led to a 2006 case. Before that 2006 case, I had already been trying to report confessions, demonstrations, and recorded federal crime acts and roles, which the extent of it explained to them, because this is where people are telling lies. When people aren't honest, but you can still tell the truth. So so in other words, they're using my reactions. These are also people I already knew, because I didn't know them, and they're involved where they were using confessions to keep families associated with policing of stores, and with prisons, and with interbranch police, in collusion socially with a crime method that is lying to each age of fact-checking nature. And then, in other words, they know how each, like you could get over on a kid as a doctor in collusion with courts. You need to hide life progressions. You need to hide their natures. Already raised identity thefts. So when CNN asks someone, "Oh, is that legal?" They know it's not legal, because they don't. Not only do they not show both sides of stories, they sequence shift, and they fake the sides of stories to hide the life progressions of recorded interbranch prisons clicks, especially with houses next to the state judicial branch office, next to state prison offices, associated with the intercity, with what really is behind the shootings in areas, distinctly and non-distinctly from what is tied to it now, with the phenomenon of the reactions of some of the people shooting categorically like that onto schools. Crazy things like that. It's tied to what was through time stealing identities and databases. Most people aren't going to react like that. But it's also tied to that way with the schools. See, this is where they have us timed. They have not only us timed, but each age of us to this. Unnatural impositions as an organized crime method that juxtaposed motivations, natures, and roles of fake care, and convictions that you can't defend without trick, fact-checking nature fast, without appreciating and evaluating what is really too all our shared policing of stores and things like that, with as the real manifest value of market positions that were forced on each modern nation to keep each only realized victim predators forced to react to this as fact-checking nature. So, and therefore forced to defend that, and that being used to hurt others and to blame things on other things and on selves. At the same time, forced fake integrity, breaching screen. Only not seen because it's real integrity, because everyone's a victim predator. But as a predator, where and how it counts. With fact-checking nature. Fake integrity. So there's a Heather Hansen, a whole bunch of men, and her recorded and confessed involved criminally with Lena's Pizza, with CCSU, with the person, I don't know if that's real or made up in the fake news about the serial killer, but with that person, recorded and confessed involved criminally with them, with crimes with courts databases, crimes and cases, with the interstate families involved, in the Trade Center attacks context, 9th Circuit right there in Manhattan, proven sequence shift. That led to another part of a tied case in 2006 in a district court. I had already decided, I didn't know that at the time that a Hartford court had offered, because the former director of the FBI was a defendant in that case now. And with federal criminals of his, co-defendants that had recorded, confessed, and demonstrated criminal involvements with a number of people in my grade when I was growing up, with database, illusion stacking, identity theft crimes. And that has stayed because they stay inter-campuses tied, and they're keeping campuses manifest used each age for the same thing, same methods, so quick to get people, they have it where they attach people to natures of fact treatments that are fake sides, fake middles, and pretended respect, and sequence shifting roles. And then they have to pretend passions and say, oh, well, sue. But see, this is from off campuses. And while exploiting what was his, since before Paul Manafort Drive, and they switched the name and brought into his father and him with at the end of the CCSU article. See, that's the guy associated, demonstrated, recorded, involved with interbranch intelligence families, with Trinity College also involved with crime acts, identity theft, with deans forging and switching names, crimes with Joshua Stryker. I never had a conversation with my life. At the same time, was an intercity facilitated crime rolls for them by a Joshua Julian, also recorded and confessed, involved with many others, involved with the principal sex offenders campus, and how they forced that sustained first. The only reason that even got caught was for something related to that. His doctors, for the sex crime stuff, whatever like that, recorded with crimes with them using the Facebook, because they're anticipating the interactions of each person in relationship to interbranch private associated with that, like prisons, especially, and the doctors with that, and especially with healthcare campuses, all natures of campuses, fire departments, juxtaposed with Russian families. You know, Russian spy den treatments associated now criminally with them hiding behind these kind of things, fake sides. Russians recorded and confessed involved with crimes against Russian kids, demonstrated because they're in crimes with doctors, with crimes against kids here. They pretend that, you know, so there are various natures of courts in collusion already, with probate courts, with their extended family members already criminally involved with identity thefts. See, this is a method that has me needing to use the names of complete strangers and of people I only know from contexts where they make confessions and they know are criminally, they can't admit the truth, but they're pretending they can. But if they try to do that on paper without offensive crimes and reliance upon recorded criminally, them stacking me attached to fake people I don't know, and to fake sequences, and to fake communications with others. Interstate too. A bunch of people with the name Alicia also recorded and confessed, and with the name Maggie criminally involved with the people from my town, which are many, but I have nothing to do with. Exploiting every exception. And most of those exceptions, not one conversation with the people. God knows what they said. CCSU confessed, recorded, demonstrated that they have Jen Sosha and Jeff Sosha. I never had a conversation with them in my life. There was a Ray Reynolds. And there were doctors of psychology, people with a Leahy family involved with them with identity thefts, with the campuses. So they stacked many names and jobs tied to federal crimes that are verbal, and with databases and indifference to that and exploitations of that, which are off campuses. They're maintaining lie progression, cover-up natures, tools. They're knowing each. They're lying to, they're hurting boys and girls distinctly and non-distinctly, and having them self-cultivate themselves to roles, needing to hide lie progressions, because then they go to positions that are supposed to be integrity. That's why they were timing. While I was trying to get people to respond to crime acts, confessions about a Hartford court criminally involved with an Eric Burgess and Emily or Amy, I forgot her name, and a kid named Mendez, and a guy named Mendez. I'm not saying he's, they're using him as a victim predator, but with the media on and off campuses being directed by police forms in relationship to how we have shared policing of nations, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated criminally involved together with the Trade Center crimes, with their roles with criminal justice, with Puerto Rico programs and stuff. We have campuses connected. We have also a death in Italy of a Trinity student, untimely death on that campus. All these people all connected to a drug cliques from my area I had nothing to do with. And the one person that hung with them once in a while. And that was only for them making confessions and demonstrations, the police criminally involved, interbranch. Their family members too. So this is space maintaining everyone victim predator roles with originally propagated live progression cover-up natures, standing in relationship to databases with areas, and that maintained reactions exploited. That was their motives were facilitated as fake sides. And with the Trade Center attack and with the treatments of the religions through campuses. Their convictions with physical delusions mixed with criminal foreign influences of other religions. Specifically so they can justify trick factory nature that is not letting the freedom of religion, is not letting freedom of speech by stealing it, by stealing our property, juxtaposing their roles, having juxtaposed for them roles with all kinds of natures of extortion, property thefts, areas, breaching crime roles, juxtaposed torture as fact-checking nature. This, defending that, trying to pretend that because it's too chaos with all the nations pretending to be integrity at once, the same way, for the same ill as it. So they just keep sending people to jail each day. They appreciate what was his inter-campus, inter-age, maintaining that when people grow up, their sensibilities against strangers like me, and pretending other in the background because they can't do it honestly because they know the recorded actually criminally involved per the interbranch actors and people associated with them private, like a Gold family. I never had anything to do with the Gold family in my life. That's tied to the O'Brien family. Recorded, confessed, crime rolls with them with offensive evidence reception crimes, and that's what this was. Is each year I went to each campus, and see, but those campus acts were being tied to people making confessions about the roles with it intercity, then changing the nature of what I had to report and what was being demonstrated to me. And these, in other words, we have the investigators of the Trade Center attack recorded criminally involved with media. They tell them to pretend that they don't know what charge to use or stuff like that. That's because they're sequence shifting. That's against the law. That's perjury. They're stacking databases with fake things. They're stealing people's identities and writing fake news and pretending they just believe that was something wrong because of passions. Passions that are being used to force sustained a quality of fact-checking nature that's being used for abuses of each age of fact-checking nature, because through the child abuse was recorded what motivated and keeps what is unjustifiable as the words of the law and of its titles in relationship to elderly homes, in relationship to areas treatments, in relationship to our American history, the criminally foreign influence zoning laws, the stolen identities of our founders, the databases rackets going on at the time, forced, not let challenged by anybody, that not let demonstrated. You don't think that? In other words, there is a sick theater where no one thinks and pretends other. but no one follows the rules. That's why the news is not supposed to fake both sides of the news. You know. So Paul Zano also recorded and confessed his cousins involved with police forums. You're going to get into all these, and with this, the middle school, there's a Dr. Graham recorded and confessed with physical delusions juxtaposed with crimes with overt, proven, and further recorded and confessed child sex offenders, crime rolls with drug untimely deaths, criminal uses of the context of that, databases crimes, identity thefts, intercampuses with the same people tied to the Heather Hansen. I don't know their names. They made the phenomena where they had the people offensively make confessions, demonstrations to me through time of, they're sustaining this on kids to hide the lie progressions, to hide from correlation, each age of fact treatment nature, instantly capable of correlation with disorganized crime, demonstrated, recorded, demonstrated, other pretended for sensibilities needed to be pretended. That's nonsense. They know that slavery was caused by an organized crime method that had everyone a slave role. Sickly distinctly to hide how non-distinctly. And that's our course. How non-distinctly. And how sickly distinctly. And that's correlation. And that's correlation's identity. And that's correlation's identity of relationship to itself as an increasing volume, nature of volume, positive or negative. And this is negative value nature progressions. And this is a fact treatment nature racket that was making things better just because they were so sick in relationship to color, for example. Juxtaposed, measured, used, without entertaining, now let demonstrated the organized crime method that was juxtaposing more than 99.9% of the crimes. Fake care, fake, as a fact treatment nature racket, as a quality of fact treatment nature that was obfuscating why we all have black pupils and whites of eyes, which is the one course that is all values in relationship to values, greater perfect progression. That's self-generated. That which raw. That's most scientifically discernible. Before there could be a big bang, there has to be something generated. The value of this bond, it's this relationship to its complete nature, which is inseparable from three natures of itself. Three natures of volume that are the phenomena of the gaining perfect value of progression of temporary/lasting space-based nature value. Here, or as it forced from here, because it's only going to stay constant. Phenomena of value, volume, as our nature, as a quality of diffusion, more positive, also positive onto itself, or only temporary positive as is standings, human value nature systems. Or what causes negative value nature volume constantly, length of IDs forced from here, as an identity of all things at once, is relationship to itself that is distinctly. That is negative. Because it's the identity that has positive and negative next to it. So simultaneously, distinctly and non-distinctly, to all parts of space nature. See, the reason we're going to outer space and stuff like that, that's our value. That's our value nature system. Length of high Ds. Rather than even afford to fix out of how we're in a pathology of tactically denatured relationship to nature, home styles forced since before our founders were born, entrenched here. As a pathology with slavery in the North and South. With that as a fact treatment nature racket. as a divide and conquer fact, treatment, nature, quality, as a means to have that defended, as a means to have force pseudo-positive criminal insidiousness nature of positive theater pretended, and that only let realize, discern, everyone hurt each age of fact treatment nature, because everyone facilitated to it specifically to keep everyone blaming other things, others, and selves. And so that keeps the complete nature maintained, what is maintained by a method maintaining that outcome. And if that method wasn't doing that, which we could just counter, then our nature's real relationship to itself, instead of just reaching out for whatever we would titling, that can't defend itself. Doesn't, it's like the President Trump said, do you guys even know? How many of you know someone involved with internation complex litigation? I'm paraphrasing. So these are people, you know, many natures of crime, because these were the Dillon family, and I don't know the name of other officers, and various retired and standing. And I know there's various other FBI and CIA recorded and with their family members criminally involved. See, then we come to like, they say, oh, well, what charges and stuff like that. They're playing trick fact treatment natures per what had lawyers criminally involved originally and still. Preventing correlation from demonstrating that because they're using time as a weapon. Nothing is a semi-nature. Time is a tool to see the one nature's simultaneously distinctly and non-distinct relationship to itself, positive or negative, while we are a quality of diffusion, invisible but still discernible. The identity of space is greater than it. That's why and how it's a semi-nature. Everything is the same course at once. Semi-nature. It's mixed with physics. In negative value, there's no negative infinity. There's only the nature of volume, which is positive and negative, and that a little bit more, and wow, a little bit more of the complete identity of relationship to itself at the same time coming into that volume, this volume we are together. To see the polarity we are, value is a complete value, and a complete value is nature, relationship to itself. Each age of fact treatment nature is insidiously has a theater upon it that was facilitated to other motivations, natures, and roles in relationship to natures of jobs that you can't defend, and thus at the same time, specifically to keep fact treatment nature, opinion nature of equality, incapable of defending free speech, incapable of not staying self-cultivated breaching screen tools. Worse, this hurts more people. There's torches, especially Hartford, Connecticut, New York City. Unbelievable people stacking for a fact treatment nature racket effect to play perpetually, to invest people relied on value nature systems for help. They can't help like that without being defending pseudo-positive roles, being a weapon in other ways. So we use pantheism to juxtapose. Understanding this as nations together. We have maintained sickly, distinctly hurt, tortured, devalued, from a tactically denatured base that everyone just would ignore because there's no way to afford anything else, not by accident. Russians and Americans have recorded criminally foreign influenced zoning laws and infrastructural pathology that was against our founders in each nation's, against Mao Zedong. Think Mao Zedong didn't have free speech. How could someone have free speech when they criminally re-engineered ancient sciences? They may everyone come through science, pseudo-positive quality of fact should be nature care. I say so you hear, means for the change right there. Yeah. So the courts also do that when they're sequence shifting, they're stacking database evidence crimes. They're pretending passions because they're of care for people they work with, that they pretend to have integrity, but they recorded knowing they don't, and they don't have it with them. We have misprision criminality originally and still. How they were motivated to that is as victims, per a method not being demonstrated because they're exploiting it now. Where and how it was completely a fact-sheet nature racket. That's why the news steals our identities, multi-front with the courts stacking things in Connecticut already. Then they hid that from the presidents, right through administrations, because of the nature of roles with it. And there are proofs that both President Obama and that Donald Trump might try to check in on things about, like, with mobile gas station, with the military police, with MPO Floyd. See, but it was recorded how they're criminally already foreign influenced, facilitating to roles, pretending other, defending identities that are criminally foreign influenced. There and here we have shared policing, like a DeMauro family, a Kerr family, with the New Britain Superior Court, rape threats. Some girls, like tricks, when I was a kid, they had me, like, they have the Ray Color. He's the one with the Phil Color tied to an Anthony Agnew with identity thefts. That's his cousin. I never had anything conversation with Phil Color in my life. I noted how they tried to make it look like other. And he was involved with some kid I don't know the name of, they called him Bayrock, I don't know, and there was a street name that involved with one of the nursing homes criminally involved, and with probate judges, extended family members. Then with crimes in the past, with, like, they had like cigarette boxes where you press the thing, you can make a phone call for free. And they had all these people involved with that and gambling and stuff like that, and they were putting people in jail. With probate judges, they're pretending people have mental diagnosis, hurting each age of kids, especially with kids' jails and stuff like that. They have programs with Washington, criminally foreign influence, associated with New Britain Superior Court through time, recorded with the pathology of all kinds of natures of crimes with kids, and with the Dr. Brendan Leahy, who attached me to fake conversations about police equipment, recording things. And he's recorded with, and fake conversations about cases, conversations that weren't at all. Could be about cases where he's recorded criminally involved with the federal criminals in the case. Their co-defendant was former director of FBI. Other agencies and their family members criminally involved with property thefts, identity thefts with them, slanders with them, fake relationships to me, with crime rolls with sequence shifts, putting me in they pretend they don't know what what crime acts to charge, because that's how the courts in the prisons, they're criminally involved with what was off campuses maintained and on and off campuses. Before Central Connecticut was Central Connecticut State University. This was an on-off campuses crime method, using them now and here. See, this is from off campuses. But the campuses are criminally involved with crime acts. We have to see acts. We have to deal with crime acts. The fake news is preventing crime acts from being demonstrated, and they're pretending other in the background, relying upon database solution stacking that was facilitated and acted by and for them criminally growing up. They know this doesn't have to be proven, it's recorded. They're recorded also hiding it criminally by pretending things recorded. With two Mendez brothers, I never had anything to do with, recorded, confessed, involved criminally with the other extended relatives of my neighbor, like a Scalora family and a Claudia Scalora, interstate criminally involved with Florida and with the Trade Center attack context, and with the actors with the proven sequence shifts in the Trade Center context, and with the crimes leading up to the 2006 case and since that I tried to report. And then that's also with that was also with a guy that Hartford Police, and him not clear with his signature or at all. A guy they said was a Officer Hunter, criminally involved with other people that I don't remember the name. We could get the names of. See, the people aren't letting crime act. That was before he pulled me over in a car too. It was a recorded. I was already trying to counter what he was already criminally involved with. The Officer Hunter and other people that pretended they were in conversations with me by acting when they were having group, and these are people associated with locations that were recorded, confessed, and demonstrated criminally involved with people with families, with CCSU, with on-off campuses, with them, with criminal justice, and with doctors criminally involved with drugs and with overt criminal enterprises with the area, with their crime acts and criminal insidiousness natures, recorded needing to hide the same finite active body of value, progressive value, identity value, sequence value lies with them. This tied to the Trade Center attack context. We have news pretending integrity with passions dishonestly so they can prevent a quality of fact treatment nature that is the means to evolution. All we need is recorded for evolution. It shows that fake recorded things are being pretended into databases. A naive, fake positive on all sides is being forced because of economic threats, value nature system threats, not by accident. We're in an identity of negative value nature progression. When you see and you know that nuclear weapons and the nature of wars now are still not even, there's not one standing body of law. Law's nature has value, also positive unto itself, or that would be addressed, because the whole entire species nature at once wants to counter that, but cannot fathom means and cannot speculate in and where and how. That's part of, we're a value nature system, because value's perfect progression is value's nature's perfect progression. But we're only inside of it. What bonded matter? What started this diffusion, this quality of diffusion that is positive or negative onto itself, forced away, lethal IDs. That's where the spaceships go. The science is here. The science is the identity of a relationship to itself that is deeper than core, while being its value. Core without this is negative value nature, criminal insidious nature, criminally foreign influence tool. Since founding, our fathers wanted us to demonstrate their identity thefts from an entrenched, database-tied space nature, fact treatment nature racket. Torture, fake care, cultivation of that. Physical delusions as a fact treatment nature role where they pretend they have integrity with psychology. With opinion natures, we have that for the branches to and for the private with them kept needing raised, needed to hide life progressions, needed to hide how it was exploited, how we all these fake sides nations involved with psychology and with crimes with the foreign and domestic Italian family and stuff like that, and Puerto Rican families involved criminally with the police chief's family. And his officers' confessions and recorded crimes, forging names, switching names into branch. And they did at first sustained crime acts roles each campus I went to. Then they have a so they have the sensibilities of little girls used for sequence shifts and reactions to what they're keeping the drug crimes for, what they're keeping the sensibilities, because they use the untimely death at Trinity College. They're recorded using the sensibilities of other girls that they employ to scary things for the ones they faked with conversations with me and with the Joshua Julian and with the Joshua Stryker criminally involved. And then with people that I only know from context, them seeking me out to demonstrate their recorded crime acts roles through time, uncharged but recorded, like involved criminally, like people I barely know, pretending other. Joe Lombardo, that too, but I never had a conversation with Joe Lombardo personally in my life. He's in his presence for Joe Aiello. See, but then they have all these people stacked with on and off campuses crime roles with interbranch families, and with criminal justice and on and off campuses policing and intercity. Like they have sick natures of what they call intelligence, which is, insights into say one guy heard says I cut my teeth on whatever on Russia. These are fake identities. These are tools that are victim predators because of the organized crime, worse than criminal incompetence, interbranch identities of law regarding the organized crime method that was juxtaposed. Fake care, torture, all kinds of crimes to keep everyone as a tool, as a breaching tool, not just then, knowing we would come out of that, knowing whoever would try what our founders would try, they'd be seen. So what James Madison had to do, instead of making this realized, recorded, they're obfuscating it. They're investing people to listen to teachers when they tell them that you can't defend that and us at the same time. Before you can understand that Marbury versus Madison, not lawyer, not before, not criminal. This is about how they had the lawyers fake sides with the branches criminally foreign influenced. How they weren't letting equality of fact treatment nature as the value of the law, as its nature's also positive relationship to itself, which is invisible but still discernible. So we'll examine the three natures of the visible, semi-visible but still discernible. In other words, values. Say value. Words. Letters of value, one way. And they're negative value nature another. And they are only value as nature. Yeah. disappear. Santa Claus will soon be read each day. Or at least how these remains. It gives away. So that means that the identity of space has a relationship to itself that's simultaneously distinct and non-distinct to all parts. The difference between what is distinct and non-distinct, it's non-distinct both ways, it's positive to itself. With those two ways. Trinity. A little bit more of its identity coming into it as the value of temporary space nature. The rest of it, value's complete nature, was already a perfect value progression self-generating before matter. The identity of all things Bach sings. Lost course returns. The legion is never value, not as trap. That's why we do that for correlation, as we'll see. Sciences are criminally re-engineered to have defended victim-predator role, Oz. Each position of fact, human nature, even kings, even chiefs, even queens. One way redeems. Don't disbelieve. Who disbelieves? Fake news, that's what it's being used for criminally. That's a crime to prevent people from countering where interbranch actors are forging and switching names and sequences. So and using, speaking through others to defendants that were victims of their crime acts, that they made fake crime, more crime acts to hide, to sequence shift, to pretend I did something wrong. They pretended I harassed a guy recorded involved with sexual crime acts against girls I know, little girls. There are more interbranch actors with sex crime acts against little girls. They're using this because the way they're using boys and girls, each age of fact, GB nature, with sensibilities, you know, like distinctly and not distinctly in the suburbs, because they know you're in the suburbs, you walk down the street, you're not going to see anybody. You know what I'm saying? And they know those people where there are exceptions. And they exploit those exceptions per a method, an organized crime method, in relationship to database, illusion stacking, class placements, and pathology, where then you're going to walk into lunch. And you're going to sit, or some people are going to be there first because they're even timing things to hide lie progressions. They're using confessions, not the church's version of confessions. They're using confessions to make adults of the kids involved with all those originally and still all identities of jobs and of titles needed to hide lie progressions. Roles with overt criminal enterprises. Recorded how maintain juxtapose specifically for that. Recorded how maintain juxtapose really motivated for the drug crimes for that. To have the law blaming on the drug crimes. Having these overt criminal enterprises and drug cliques needing to tell the same finite body of value, progressive and identity lies and sequence lies with the doctors of psychology with drug crimes, recorded, with sex crime acts roles, with child sex offenders cliques, tied to interbranch further, intermilitary, foreign and domestic, with CCSU criminal crime acts roles. The guy at the end of a CCSU, of a CNN, he was rubbing his buttocks on a wall in an elevator and moaning. I had no reaction to it. That's recorded, confessed, involved with a whole bunch of other people from my town, criminally involved with databases, identity thefts, roles trying to, where they have people trying to pretend that where they're stacking illusions. And they know that, and I know that's recorded. But they're not saying these are people involved interstate with our side. See, this is where when we're talking about this is tied to trade negotiation disputes and settlements already had. But they were named here and there. Here and there, they're only a relationship to marketed position, forced there and here, and forced there and here, forced to blame it on other causes, other things, and on selves. What really forced, because not one person is a quality of fact shaping nature, allowing anyone to demonstrate how originally and still we have criminally foreign influence states and areas. That those fact shaping nature styles forcing presidents to roles. It's recorded. They pretend they ask just get a lawyer to say, oh, there's no law, bro. They got interbranch actors to say they don't know which charge to use, or they don't know what thing it is. They're fix the sequence shifts, fix the fake database illusion stacking, the identity thefts, the interbranch property crimes, thefts, intellectual, physical thefts, intercity facilitated connected with the Dillon family. Also, a Sal Civiello recorded confessed involved with I never had anything to do with him in my life. Recorded confessed involved with the police forms involved and with their families criminally, with CCSU and with Trinity College involved criminally. And you know, I'm in Wethersfield, Connecticut. How am I ever going to meet anybody? Well, that's what they're doing. They're keeping each age of fact shaping nature criminally foreign influence for their own as their own let realized roles with originally propagated criminally foreign influence for this, and that's maintained. So CNN has that as Trade Center Crime Acts roles with Connecticut media, way worse than their recorded crime acts, fake conversations with me, preventing both sides of stories from being told, faking both sides of stories, pretending medical information, pretending kids had relationships to doctors and mental diagnosis that never were at all, never had relationship to the doctors. At those people that like a Leahy family, a Harris family, involved with crimes with various natures of doctors, drugs, and other drugs through their kids, involved criminally. Various natures of database crimes, identity thefts, roles facilitated to sequence shifts, crimes with 2 speech classes I had when I was in high school, with the Dillon guy and with his partner from years ago, with the detectives and with state police, and with the kids criminally involved with the sex offenders' untimely deaths, and the confessions to me, which they use from strangers intercity because they were tied untimely deaths in sex offenders' roles and identity theft roles, and they're sustaining this through time, never putting anything in records. The courts are making evidence crime acts in collusion with overt criminality, unrealized criminality, private criminality tied to them. Mandated crime they're preventing from being followed with these sequence shifts, with these roles with sex crime acts. Heather Hansen and also recorded and confessed tied to other girls with men from my town and with the detective Samuda. She didn't use his name, but he's also recorded and confessed involved with crimes with judges, faking arrests he writes fakes arrests. He's with identity thefts. You know, extortion. This is extortion too. But most importantly, I need to meet someone in life now. You know what I'm saying? They used the names and people that were just forced to the location of my first wife for Trade Center crime acts, and they switched that name with a girl from Saudi Arabia associated with Nordstrom's in West Hartford, criminally involved with all the various juxtaposed natures of crime acts and of crime actors' roles and natures recorded with CCSU on off campus. And I can't get a response because they're making it worse because they're forging and switching names, and they're recorded torturing women and kids of each age of fact-cheating nature with women interbranch involved with the sex crime acts, cliques, with their own federal crime acts, and needs to pretend they don't realize that it was recorded and confessed by all of them with them. In other words, everyone's forging and switching names and making confessions, and they're writing other. Because we have the former director of the FBI involved with this criminally. His lawyer, Robert Chevrolet, involved criminally with that location and with the nature of the confessions from the Eric Burgess and from the people, the women with the Hartford Court, and with DCF, and with Gary Sasso, and with prison cliques on and off campus, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, involved criminally, and with media, crime acts, criminal influences over the journalists using the schools from off campuses. So what I'm saying, even though the name CCSU changed, this was from off campuses, then on off campuses sustained the whole time, which was criminally involved with uses of Paul Manafort's name, with their crimes against me and against our nation, with their roles with the Trade Center criminally. They said they confessed and recorded that they have the victim's family, one of the families involved, used criminally. Their sensibilities involved with how they use the girls and the boys distinctly and non-distinctly with identity thefts. Because they have the girls then wanting to hide things but speak anyways, so they're keeping them locked into what stays interbranch collusion with overt criminal enterprises and with private and with systemic medical corruption with psychology, tied even to sociology, to counselors with databases. And that sustained, ignored, and pretended not realized each age of fact-cheating nature. By the time they get to middle school, high school, it's already, everyone knows they can't tell. Because everyone demonstrates how they get locked in as where everyone, you're not going to have a conversation with most of the people when you go to, you could have 100 people in your grade, but you never have a conversation, you never have a class with them. The ones in the classes, like Eric Jensen was put in a class with me. Eric Oliveri was put in a class with me. Ray Claw was put in a class with me. Paul Zana was put in a class with me that we all used criminally. When I was in middle school, Rick Chanfayon was put in a class with me. And it was subtle. I didn't realize because then they made the confessions about it later. And it was ongoing. So there was like a Mr. Neville, an English teacher, criminally involved. They put the English teachers, like, if you start getting good at anything, they're going to show you how they adapt too. So they make you adapt to things, and they see how you're going to adapt. They're just adapting because they need to cover up lie progressions in relationship to them spreading rumors through even the littlest kids. That people pretending, in other words, making someone think they were in a class with someone else. Making them think that those people were in a locations and had relationships with those people. They're telling fibs. They're just lying to whole groups. And that's anticipated, that they know that when people do see each other, it'll only be for a moment, and that's going to be, in other words, no one knows each other, and everybody's lying and pretending other. For fact-cheating nature, crime method where everyone's, trick fact-cheating nature. They say, oh, do you know, is there any crime with writing those things against the president. You know, the only one who can discern that is the president, and or someone who was hurt by the fake news, and by these agencies, and by them pretending to have credibility originally and still recorded. They have no credibility. Please fix it.